Get your junk off our lot, old man. The manager's boots smashed into the battered toolbox, scattering wrenches, metals, and faded memories across the hot asphalt. The old veteran knelt down, silently gathering the pieces with trembling hands. Bystanders chuckled. Phones came out. No one helped. They thought they had humiliated a nobody. But 15 minutes later, the ground shook as a black helicopter descended into the lot. When the dust cleared, a man in full military dress didn't ask for the manager. He saluted the old man kneeling by that battered toolbox. If you believe true honor stands even when the world turns away, comment respect below. The old truck rattled into the far corner of the parking lot. Metal groaned against metal as it came to a stop, exhaust sputtering before silence fell. The veteran stepped out, cradling the battered metal toolbox like a treasure. His weathered hands, marked with age spots and scars, held it with reverence. His movements were slow but careful, every step deliberate. Years of pain couldn't erase the military precision in his posture. The midday sun beat down, baking the concrete under his boots. Heat waves shimmered across the crowded lot. He placed the toolbox by the back tire and wiped his brow. Sweat glistened on his lined face, catching in the creases time had carved there. Inside the toolbox, metals, a folded photo, tools from another lifetime. Each item carefully arranged, each with its own story. A group of young employees leaned against the store's wall, laughing, their uniforms crisp, their faces unmarked by hardship. "Look at that trash heap," one of them muttered. His smirk spread like contagion to the others. The veteran ignored them, walking toward the store. His back remained straight, despite the years weighing upon it. A few customers stared at his worn jacket and turned away, eyes averted from what they didn't want to see. Inside, he picked up a few small hardware items, nails, screws, a tape measure, each examined with expert eyes before being selected. His hands moved steadily, even as arthritis stiffened his fingers. Pain couldn't overcome practice. At checkout, the clerk didn't even make eye contact. Her fingers tapped impatiently on the register. "Totals $15.20, she said flatly, boredom dripping from each syllable. He paid in cash, coins rattling in his palm, each penny counted from his modest pension. Outside, the manager stomped toward the truck. Authority puffed his chest, inflated his stride. "Whose junk is this?" he barked to no one in particular. His voice carried across the lot. He didn't wait for an answer. Impatience transformed to cruelty in an instant. His boot lashed out, smashing into the toolbox. The crack echoed like a gunshot. Wrenches clattered across the asphalt, metals skittering under cars. History scattered like fallen leaves. A bronze star spun to a stop near the curb. Sunlight glinted off its tarnished surface. The veteran froze, heart pounding. For a moment he was young again, hearing explosions. Slowly he knelt down, gathering each piece carefully. Dignity in every movement. The employees burst into laughter, one pulling out a phone to film, modern cruelty finding its audience. A father pulled his young son away, shielding him from the scene, teaching avoidance rather than help. "Just a crazy old man," someone muttered. Words that dismissed a lifetime. Dust clung to the metals as the veteran wiped them clean on his sleeve. History restored with tender care. No words, no confrontation. Only quiet hands saving what mattered most. The manager crossed his arms, watching with a smirk. Satisfaction painted across his face like a mask. "Next time, take your garbage elsewhere," he said loudly. His voice carried, designed to humiliate. A clerk kicked a bent screwdriver into the gutter. The clatter of metal against concrete punctuated her giggle. Another employee filmed, snickering. "Old guy's gonna cry." His thumb hovered over the share button, ready to broadcast suffering. The veteran carefully folded a faded photo back into the box. Creases lined the image of young men in uniform, brothers in arms. The parking lot buzzed with murmurs and cruel laughter. Humanity's darker nature rippling outward like poison. A woman shook her head but said nothing, hustling her kids into a minivan, teaching them silence in the face of wrongdoing. The veteran's hands trembled as he salvaged a crumpled dog tag, names and numbers, identity compressed into metal. He pressed it against his chest for a long second, a heartbeat against the cold metal that once lay against another heart. Somewhere nearby, a teenager mimicked a limp, making fun of him. Youth mocking the wounds of age, the veteran didn't flinch. Years of discipline held his emotions beneath still waters. He placed the last wrench back into the toolbox. Each tool had purpose. Each had seen honest work. The sun beat hotter, the laughter sharper. Cruelty intensified in the summer heat. A small boy watched from a distance, clutching his mother's hand, innocent eyes witnessing the world's harsh lessons. The veteran sat beside his toolbox, resting silently, exhaustion etched in the lines around his eyes. Dust rose from the asphalt as a low rumble filled the air, a distant thunder growing closer. At first, no one noticed the sound, background noise in their self-absorbed world. Then the ground began to vibrate underfoot, concrete trembling with approaching power. Heads turned upward, confused. Conversations halted mid-sentence. A black helicopter bearing military insignia descended fast toward the lot. Rotors sliced through complacency, wind howled, ripping papers and hats from people's hands. Nature's fury magnified by machine. Shopping carts rolled away. Chaos erupted in what had been ordinary space. The manager stumbled backward, shielding his face, bravado replaced by instinctive fear. The helicopter touched down hard, kicking up a storm of dust. The world transformed in seconds. Doors flew open, purpose and order, imposing itself on chaos. Soldiers in dress uniforms stepped out, boots striking pavement with force. Each step synchronized, deliberate. A colonel emerged, his medals gleaming under the harsh sun, authority radiating not from arrogance but from earned respect. Silence swallowed the lot. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The colonel ignored the crowd, walking straight toward the kneeling veteran. His path never wavered. He halted 2 steps away, squared his shoulders, military precision in every movement, and snapped a salute so sharp it cracked the air. Honor recognizing honor. Sergeant First Class, welcome home, the colonel said, loud enough for everyone to hear. His voice carried weight and history. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Understanding dawning like a cold sunrise. Phones lowered. Shame replacing entertainment. Smirks vanished. Reality intruding on cruelty's fantasy. A few employees backed away, faces pale, guilt painting each feature. The manager tried to blend into the background, failing miserably. No crowd large enough to hide his actions. The colonel knelt, gathering a wrench from the ground with both hands. Humility and service, he handed it back to the veteran with silent respect, one warrior to another. Soldiers moved, picking up every scattered tool metal and photo with reverence. A brotherhood spanning generations. Dust swirled around them like a shroud. Earth itself seemed to honor the moment. No one else dared move, the world frozen in witness. The wind carried whispers of shame across the lot, words unspoken but felt by all. Eyes that had laughed now looked away, pride replaced by the hollow ache of regret. A child pointed, asking questions his mother couldn't answer. Innocence demanding explanation from guilt. The soldiers formed a circle around the veteran, protection, offered too late but meaningful still. The manager's authority evaporated like morning dew, power revealed as temporary shallow. The veteran's silence spoke volumes, dignities that couldn't be taken, only overlooked. If you believe silent dignity deserves thunderous respect, comment, stand tall below. The colonel turned toward the crowd, voice steady, each word measured, weighed before delivery. You laughed at a man who gave more to this country than you will ever understand. Truth delivered without anger. All the more devastating. Heads lowered. Shame found its mark in downcast eyes. You kicked away memories of blood, sacrifice, and brotherhood. History made personal in 6 simple words. An employee wiped tears from her eyes, guilt heavy on her face, remorse etched in trembling lips. The manager tried to mumble an excuse, but no one listened. His authority now hollow, meaningless. The colonel produced a battered black and white photo, time-yellowed edges, framed faces young and determined. It showed the veteran decades younger, standing proudly among his unit, ghosts captured in silver nitrate. This man trained heroes, saved lives, built the legacy you stand on. Legacy made visible in the space between then and now. A soldier beside the colonel unfolded a flag, one marked with battle honors. Stars and stripes that had seen distant shores. They draped it gently over the toolbox, transforming the ordinary into sacred. The veteran stood slowly, spine straight, despite the years. Dignity rising undefeated. A second helicopter touched down carrying a brass band unit. Metal glinted in the sunlight. They began playing the national anthem right there in the parking lot. Notes soared above commercial banality. Customers and employees stood frozen, hands over hearts. Ritual uniting the divided. A news van screeched to a halt at the curb, media sensing a story worth telling. Reporters scrambled, cameras rolling. Private humiliation becoming public redemption. The colonel shook the veteran's hand firmly, strength acknowledging strength. "The Army never forgets its own," he said simply. "Promise made and kept." The hardware store CEO, alerted by the news coverage, called in and fired the manager immediately. Corporate damage control with rare justice. An apology plaque was ordered in honor of those who served silently. Words attempting to heal what words had wounded veterans from nearby towns began arriving, forming a silent honor guard around the veteran brotherhood. Answering the call, a teenage boy, the one who had mocked him earlier, approached and saluted with tears in his eyes. Youth learning from its mistakes. Forgiveness was offered with a simple nod, grace extended without words. No more laughter, only reverence. The veteran's hand rested on his toolbox, calloused fingers tracing familiar dents, his eyes clear and focused, surveyed the transformed scene, wisdom reading the human landscape. The colonel addressed the crowd again, voice carrying, "This man jumped on a grenade to save his unit." Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Horror at their own behavior deepened. He was given 24 hours to live. Time measured in heartbeats, not years. That was 52 years ago. Miracle quantified in decades. The manager, trying to slip away, was stopped by two soldiers' accountability, finding its target. Each tool in that box rebuilt his life when he came home. Ordinary objects transformed by extraordinary will. The veterans' medals gleamed under the sun, bronze-silver hearts of valor. One of the soldiers, young enough to be his grandson, stood at attention beside him. Generations linked by service. "You saw an old man." The colonel's words cut like truth always does. "You should have seen a giant." The crowd parted as more veterans arrived. Different wars, same brotherhood. They nodded to each other, understanding beyond words. Shared experience needing no explanation. A spontaneous line formed. People waiting to shake the veteran's hand. Redemption sought in simple touch. The clerk who had ignored him now stood weeping by the door. Humanity reclaimed from indifference. Someone brought him water. Small kindness, await but sincere. The veteran accepted it with the same quiet dignity he'd shown throughout, grace extended to all. Weeks later, the parking lot bore a new mural, a battered toolbox with a flag draped over it. Art transforming space and memory. A bronze plaque read, "Dedicated to the silent strength of our veterans." Words cast in metal to outlast those who spoke them. The veteran's story spread across the country, inspiring tribute events nationwide. One moment rippling outward, changing many veteran parking spaces, multiplied in cities that had none concrete acknowledgement of abstract debt. Schools shared the story of the toolbox during Veterans Day assemblies. Children learning what adults had forgotten. Small towns began hanging banners honoring the silent warrior's recognition, finding its visual language. But the veteran himself remained quiet, avoiding cameras and speeches. Fame held no value to one who had seen glory's true cost. He still drove his battered truck, toolbox secured in the back, routine continuing despite the world's changed eyes. Sometimes children recognized him and waved shyly. Innocence honoring experience. He always waved back. Smile soft but fleeting. Connection made across generations. One crisp fall morning, he returned to the lot. Autumn light painting, everything golden. The mural shone brightly under the sunrise, colors vibrant against mundane commerce. He sat on the curb for a while, toolbox by his side, companionship found in memory's vessel. No speeches, none needed where truth stands clear. No crowds. Solitude sometimes the sweetest reward. Just a man and the memories that had survived everything. Private history carried in silent dignity. The hardware store under news management offered him free supplies for life. Atonement seeking its path. He declined paying full price for a single hammer. Independence valued above charity. The former manager, now working across town, saw him from a distance and turned away. Shame finding no resolution. A young veteran approached him in the aisle seeking advice on building a deck. Knowledge passed like a torch. They spoke quietly among the lumber. Two generations sharing skills. Continuity and craftsmanship. True strength isn't shouted. It whispers through action. It endures. Beyond humiliation, beyond recognition. In silence, where character is forged. In scars, each telling its story of survival. In the battered hands that never let go. Holding what matters when the world would scatter it. If you believe true honor is carried, not worn, subscribe to the Unbreakables and stand with us.